New today, President Trump's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro, saying a meeting between the Trump administration and Chinese officials will take place in about 7 days. That announcement comes a day after the president held a call with Chinese President Xi and agreed to more trade talks. Here with more on what to expect from that is Ian Bremmer, president and founder of Eurasia Group and G0 Media. Ian, first of all, do you take this at face value that there is going to be a meeting in the next 7 days?
Sure. I expect a meeting will happen. I think we need to recognize that a stabilization in engagement between the two countries is very different from saying the era of U.S. containment of China is over and that we're not going to see a decoupling. Long term, the relationship is going to get increasingly distant and rocky, but the latest headlines show a slowing of that trajectory. Let's put it that way.
So we go back to the Geneva meeting, in which the Chinese keep insisting the U.S. made all of these promises that it hasn't kept. They've raised the issues on semiconductors. They've even raised the issue of Chinese foreign visas and things like that. That's actually a huge issue among the public there. U.S. side keeps saying that was not in the agreements, and the agreements were all about, what China would do. It subsequently then restricted rare earth metals and perhaps reportedly is now kind of moving forward with more permits. What does all of that tell you?
Well, the licensing was made more challenging, it's true, and the Chinese didn't really know what the Americans wanted, were surprised by the 50%, additional 50% that came on the Chinese after Liberation Day. They hit back pretty hard, and they were unwilling to reach out and tell the Americans, uncle, we can't take this kind of pain. Trump was surprised by that. He had been told by his advisors that if you hit the Chinese, they're going to be begging you to get to a deal, and that didn't happen. So Trump is the one that ended up asking for the call. The readout from the Americans made explicit that they didn't talk about issues like Ukraine and Iran, and surely that was a condition for Xi Jinping to actually have the discussion. So again, what I see happening here is a willingness of Trump at the principal level to engage with Xi to take some of the most fiery aspects of the near-term relationship damage off the table. So I don't think you'll see as much on the Chinese visa issue, for example, from the Americans, despite what Marco Rubio has said. I don't think you'll see as much on the licensing slowdowns, the bureaucratic challenges from the Chinese on critical minerals, despite what the Americans have experienced that have tried to apply for those permits over the past weeks. But again, the long-term relationship, one where the Americans are really trying to restrict what China can do in advanced technologies, really trying to ensure that American allies around the world are aligning with the U.S. and cutting out Chinese supply chain, that's going to continue, and China's not going to play nice in that environment.
So I wanted to ask you about Russia, Muscat, and those, but I just feel like I need to stay on China because it's more of a top-level concern for our audience. So the final question then is, many market guests and people have weighed in over the past week or so saying they think Trump now realizes there's no way that he's going to get anything out of ratcheting up tariffs again, which is probably one of the top 3 risks for stocks, which are nearly back at all-time highs. Do you agree with that, or do you think that if he feels spurned by these negotiations, or as if he's lost his leverage or something like that, could we see some big splashy announcements be resurrected?
With the Chinese, I suspect not, because I think Trump understands that the Chinese are capable and willing to hit him in the face as hard as he hits them. And that's the taco trade, right? I mean, the idea that Trump always chickens out applies to everybody is insane. Trump can get other adversaries and friends to capitulate. Look at Mexico. Look at Columbia University. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. There are plenty of people that understand you don't want to fight against Trump and the United States. Look at Nippon Steel and Japan. That's a big economy. But the Chinese, no.
If I'm Columbia, don't I look at Harvard and say I shouldn't have capitulated? If I'm Mexico, don't I look at China and say I shouldn't have capitulated?
If you're Mexico, you look at China? No. If you're Mexico, you say 85% of my exports go to the U.S.
Yeah, fair.
All of the tourism comes from the U.S. All of my drugs go to the United States. All of the remittances come from Mexicans living in the United States. What the hell do I have to do with China if I'm Mexico? Absolutely not. If you do that, you're really stupid. So I hope they don't do that. And from talking to Mexican leadership, it's pretty clear to me they're not that dumb.